is. Yeah, I don't know anything about racing. This is true. You're right. You're in the wrong show.
Yeah.
You're watching the wrong show if you want to hear like super engineer stuff.
What's up, everybody? We are back after summer break here on Hitting the Apex, joined by Mr. Evan and Vish. How are you guys doing today, fellas?
I don't know. I'm still basking in the glory of the George Russell disqualification. So that was the last race. So I could have used more time with it, but it's time to move on.
Breaking news! George Russell DNF'd again. The season's back, ready to go. We got the Dutch Grand Prix coming at you this weekend to kickstart off, the second half of the season. A really exciting first half. Obviously, we got to talk about a lot of things. I think it was 7 different winners, right? Or 7, 6 or 7. Evan's already doing like mock drafts and stuff.
No.
We just got some breaking news. Is it the George Russell news again?
No, it was the Brian Flores stuff against Tua.
That's still going on. Whatever. Anyways, yeah. So like I said, we've got obviously there's some, news and some notes out there, some news, some rumors out there on stuff. We won't speculate much, but the Adrian Newey stuff is still going out there. But right now, I think that we can kind of give our thoughts. I would probably do that right before we even preview the Dutch Grand Prix. But your thoughts, Vish, on the first half of the season, was it something that you weren't expecting, or was it everything you were expecting?
No, it was definitely, especially at the first few races, thought this was going to be a max walk away, but hasn't been. I definitely didn't see McLaren being the second team either. So no, it's been a surprise. I think Norris in second is something I think you would have gotten pretty good odds on predicting before the year. So yeah, no, it's exciting and it looks competitive. So even if we don't expect 78 points max to lose that and lose the championship, every race should be competitive in terms of who wins, which it's good to see. And of course, as always, shout out to Jane.
Yeah,
doesn't miss the show.
I know.
Doesn't miss the show.
She's the best. I know that some of those things are definitely unexpected. I think that, like you mentioned, the biggest one is McLaren up there doing the Lord's work against Red Bull. But in actuality, this can become a situation where McLaren, I don't know how far off McLaren is from Red Bull right now, but I think that there's a strong possibility that they could really challenge for that top position in the constructors because of how well both of their drivers are doing, right? Oscar Piastri also in fourth right now, just behind Leclerc. So I think he's 10 points back only. So if Leclerc and that Ferrari doesn't figure out a way to become more competitive in the second half of the season and come up with some ways to either win a couple of races or just be in some of them, like, keep placing keep podium, keep hitting the podium. I think that it's going to be tough for Ferrari to come back and do anything there. So, Evan, your thoughts on the first half of the season?
Yeah, it's kind of same thing what Vish was saying. It was unexpected to see, so much or so many teams being so competitive at the start of the season, especially Mercedes. How they came on really towards the end of the first half of the season, how everything played out with McLaren, and even how Ferrari kind of fell back and haven't really done much since, the start of the season, or even, at Monaco, and so it's been a real refreshing season, especially after what we had last year and Max's dominance. And it was almost like seeing another team win after you saw Michael Jordan, win, what was it, 72 games in that one season. So it's you want to see somebody else come in, and you want to see somebody else come in and compete. And that's really what we want as race fans. We don't want to just see somebody walk away with it every single race. As impressive as that is, and as technically, amazing as it is to see something like that happen, it's so much better when you see teams that are up there actually competing every single week. And that's what we've got so far, through these first, half of the year, and hopefully that's what we'll see for the rest of the year as well.
Yeah, I think he's got it cut out for him, right? Max, he's got the second half of the season, is going to be interesting, man. Especially with the way that that Lando is driving, and you still have the threat of Lewis Hamilton, who's come on in the last 6 races, he's second in points, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's Lando, him, and then Norris. I'm sorry, Max, Lewis, and Lando. I think in the top 3 in points the last 6 or 7 races. So, Lewis, another one who's been driving really well this year. I mean, the Mercedes has been very competitive. The Mercedes, has looked pretty good, all things considered. So you got a 4-team race there that is looking to be really exciting going down the stretch in the second half. So it's gonna be fun to watch, and I think that it's gonna make for an even better finale of the 2024 season. So, but we start off with the Dutch Grand Prix, which, I guess you can technically say this is Max's home race again at Zandvoort.
The Max Verstappen Grand Prix.
It only exists because of him. They all
pretty much, right?
After he eventually, probably like 20 years from now, as long as these guys race now, retires, they'll get rid of this immediately.
Yeah. I'm sure you would. This is an interesting track, right? Like, a lot of interesting corners here. Not your, you've got maybe one big straight, which is, God, I have to enlarge this because I'm so blind. Here we go. That one big straight between 14. Is it 14?
This is 13 and 14, and then
13 and 14 going into
start finish straight. Yep.
Yeah. So that's probably your biggest straight there, but everything else is kind of twisty and turns. You might get a little bit of a straight there in turn 3, not straight, but it's a little wiggly, but 3 to 7, it looks like 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. 3 to 7 is another opportunity maybe where you can, you get some straight line speed a little bit, but everything else is twisty and turny. You got a hard chicane there, and 11 to 12, leading up to 13. So again, twists and turns. Good for some teams, not so good for some others. What do you expect in this one? And by the way, just to kind of run the numbers, my bad, it's 72 laps, 306 kilometers distance. You're looking at the lap record of 1 minute and 11 seconds with 97, 1:11.097 from Lewis Hamilton a few years back. And so this is going to be an interesting one. We'll talk about tire compounds in just a second, but how do you guys like or dislike Circus Zandvoort?
I mean, overall, I like the track. It's I feel like every week I say this is my favorite track. I wouldn't say that this is my favorite, but this is one that is really interesting. One big note about this track is the banking. There's a lot of banking in this track. You got turns of 13 through 14 is a big right-hand bank. You'll see it almost looks like a NASCAR track, how much banking there is. And then the really interesting one is turn 3, real tight corner, heavy banking. We saw, who was it, Ricardo go off last year or the year before, right in turn 3, and that's when Liam Lawson had to come in and race for him. So that's something that's interesting about this track that you don't see at a lot of other Formula One tracks. Most of them are more flat. Most of them are more, elevation. dependent, not so much camber and the way banking works, like how it is on Indy cars and NASCARs and stuff like that. But it is an interesting track. It's right, if I'm not mistaken, it's right off of the water too. It's like right next to a beach, so you're going to get a lot of winds, always blowing through there. There's going to be the orange smoke going on for all the Max Verstappen, fans that are there. But overall, for a track wise, it's a very difficult track, if in the sense of the technicality of it. But on top of that, it's a fun track to just watch as somebody who's us fans, because you're seeing a lot of these different angles. You're seeing these cars go in different ways and have to really maneuver in different ways than we've seen at a lot of more traditional tracks.
Yeah, and as you can see here, they are going to go with the hardest compounds in C1, C2, and C3 for this track here at Zandvoort, which kind of makes sense. Vish, is this kind of more of a low downforce, high downforce type of track? What does it favor? What type of setup would it favor the most?
Yeah, no, it's definitely high downforce. There's just the one straight. There's very little overtaking here. It's probably going to be a one stop because, again, you can't overtake. This track sucks. To be real, like, this is not going to be a it
feels like it's going to be a boring race, right?
Well, I mean, it is as we talked about. They only added this to the calendar because of Max and his popularity, which is fine. They did the same thing when Alonso was real popular. They added a second race in Spain. It's not like it's the first time I've done something like that, but this track was not. It was slightly upgraded, but as Evan said, it's on the water. There's not room to really widen it the way you would need to for modern cars. It's not Monaco bad in terms of not being able to overtake, but it's really difficult, which is why you're going to see a one stop. You're going to want the high downforce because most of it is, as you said, Jess, the twisty sections in the middle. Qualifying will be key here. It will punish mistakes, as Evan said. The despite most of the track just being intricate, low speed turns, the thing it's known for is the high banking in turn 14. It is basically an oval level of banking, which has caused problems, as Evan called out with Danny Rick. Hurt himself there. Yeah.
Right?
You got the apex. There you go.
It's interesting. Going through turn 14, you actually want to stay higher in this track. It's we're going to see the cars are going to stay pretty much all the way along the outside and then come down right towards the very end.
Because then you got another turn on turn one, right? You got
exactly.
So you got to stay
and
higher.
that gives you, as you stay higher and then come down towards the end, you get more of that momentum coming off of the turn. If you stay closer to the inside on that banking, you're really trying to force around that against the forces of gravity that are trying to push you up the banking. So you want to stay higher and then come down towards the very end.
Well, and by the way, to your point, Vish, it's like you mentioned, right? This track was made because of Max, and Alonso has a second one in Spain. It's the same thing here. The same thing here in the States because of Logan Sargent. We've got now 3 races.
R.I.P. Logan Sargent's career.
That's why we have Miami, right?
Miami.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm down here.
Oh man, I had to throw it in there. Let's kind of excuse me. Got excited there with that one. The timing of the sessions. Here we go. So again, it's over in Deutsch in the Netherlands. You got FP1 on the 23rd, which is that's on Friday, right? Friday morning.
Yeah.
Friday morning at 6:30 in the morning, and then you've got FP2 at 10, followed by FP3 at 5:30 on Saturday morning, with your qualifying session on the 24th, which is Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Then you get your race on Sunday at 9. So is it going to affect anything else that we're doing this week? No. Perfect. Great. This weekend. I'll be watching a little bit then. Saturday might be messed up for me. But Sunday I will watch that race. So forecast for the weather. I mean,
you might get some stuff on Friday, but other than that, over the rest of the weekend, it looks like it's fine. So
Okay.
Friday, maybe into Saturday, but the race should be dry, which, again, got to qualify up at the top to have success here.
Because if you qualify in the rain, that's going to be a completely different race on Sunday. So you got to make sure that you do your best on Saturday. Hopefully, you don't get any of that rain.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, the standings are as is. You got Max Verstappen up at the top still with 277 points. In the championship, Lando Norris is kicking ass right behind them there in second at 199, followed by Charles Leclerc at 177, Oscar Piastri at 167, Carlos Sainz rounding out the top five at 162 points. And then you've got Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll in the top 10. And you still got Ollie Behrman in the top 14. So, guys still beating some other guys that have raced the whole entire season. So
He's
insane.
Crazy. Well, we'll get to see him a lot next year at Haas. So that'll be cool. And then in the constructors, you still got Red Bull up at the top at 408, followed by McLaren at 366. But that could change in the next 2 or 3 races if McLaren continues to outperform Sergio Perez. Because that, at the end of the day, you know Max is going to be up there. But if both McLarens can finish ahead of Sergio, which is likely at this point the way that he's driving, it looks like they can have an opportunity to take that top spot. Pretty crazy, right? I mean, look, 340 Ferrari's not far behind, but they're kind of going the opposite way right now. So you're talking about McLaren potentially winning the constructors. Like, pretty awesome, right? That's all things considered right now, the way things were last year and even at the start of this year. They figured something out. Zach Brown and that team over there is doing amazing, huh?
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see what happens there, but that should be fun to watch. And then of course your drivers to watch. Evan, talk to me. Drivers and team. Let's do drivers and team.
So McLaren's been doing really well this year. They seem to have a car that is competitive everywhere. But I mean, how do you go against Max at Zandvoort? I mean, I think again, we've been saying this for the past few weeks. He's going to come out, he's going to dominate, he's going to destroy everybody, and he's going to reassert his dominance. But he hasn't really done that yet. But I just, you can't bet against Max at Zandvoort. The whole crowd is going to be pushing for him. Lando's going to come out and say, yeah, they're popping the orange smoke for McLaren. That's why they're popping the orange smoke. But yeah, no, they're doing it for Max. I think he's going to come out and dominate, but I do want to see how everything else shakes out. Can McLaren, take the momentum that they had in the first half and run with it? Is, Carlos going to be able to, keep on showing his form? Is he going to be able to show, that he's made the right decision to go to Williams now? I think it's going to be interesting to see how everything else shakes out going into the second half. It's not an easy, slate of races for these guys. It's going to be fun moving forward for the rest of the season. But starting for this week, I really think that as a team wise, I think I want to see how McLaren comes in to the race coming out of the summer break, and I think as a driver, I think Max is he's the one to watch going into this race for sure.
Bish, what do you got?
From a driver standpoint, I'm looking at Leclerc, see if he can bounce back. If you recall, in that George Russell cheated race, he overperformed that car, and I'm curious if he can continue to do that. Remember, that was borderline the fastest car. He was out qualifying the Red Bulls, but then didn't have the race pace all the way down to clearly the fourth car. They allegedly should not have worked on them, so it should show up the same way that it went in. We'll see about that, but I think he's I think he'll take a step up in the second half of the year. So I'm looking at him, given that as Evan mentioned, Carlos is gone now. That's decided. I kind of expected not entirely, but there's a little bit less of. Yeah. And you'll by the way, you'll likely see the same thing with Hamilton, who has impressively, beat Russell pretty handily despite the team working against him. So I don't know. I don't know how much longer he's gonna even give a crap, to be honest. So, but yeah, I want to see if Leclerc can kind of elevate there because next year he's gonna have a teammate issue. So he's really got to show some stuff. And then for the constructors, I'm going all the way to the bottom. So Sauber has not scored yet.
Oh my god!
They're the only team. Williams has 4 points. Sauber has not scored yet. I want to see. I'm watching them getting lapped by Max, obviously, but maybe they can sneak into the top 10. Someone get me a point, damn it! Get me a point.
I don't know. Maybe Bottas can do something there, right?
Maybe.
And by the way, look, Leclerc, he's the one lap king for a reason, right? Like everybody calls him the, what is it? I think it's the one lap king or whatever the case is. And he has, you made a great point, Vish. He has outperformed that car lately, right? At the beginning of the season, you saw him win a race. You saw him, kind of dominate, a couple of times, for one reason or another, not be able to, to win more. But even now, when they are still not, they're not at the top 2 or 3 in race pace, he's still outperforming that vehicle, which kind of plays into how that's how some of the greats are, right? You've seen Lewis Hamilton outperform that Mercedes, right? You've seen, Max. Maybe Max is outperforming the Red Bull because Checo sucks. So, but no, I know I'm kind of maybe exaggerating there a little bit, but you never know, right? Sometimes some of these cars, some of these machines are not, put Logan Sargent in that Ferrari, and he's not even, staying in the top 10. So that's my point, is that sometimes you need that type of driving skill to kind of do what Leclerc is doing. So I like what you said there. I'm going to go different. I'm going to see if Lewis Hamilton, because of the fact that he's gone anyways, but he's also been, as you mentioned, Vish, kind of they're giving Russell all the goodies, right? They're kind of leaning towards him because they know that Lewis is leaving. Does he kind of do a shove at Mercedes and keep kicking ass, and keep maybe winning another race or staying on the podium, maybe, P2, P3 for the rest of the season, just to kind of show them, you guys want to keep screwing with me, this is what I'm going to do to you. So he's capable of doing that because he's the GOAT for a reason. So I want to see if he just continues his momentum and continues to, be competitive in these races. And then for team, it's tough to see. I'm gonna skip the team and I'm gonna go to another driver. How about that? I'm gonna go to see how Alex Albon performs in the rest of the season. Also, he's got Carlito coming at him now. He's obviously going to be, the proverbial number 2 driver for Williams next year because of Carlos. Is he going to go out there and try to prove a point and maybe race his ass off and drive his ass off and be competitive and stay in the top 10 somehow? That Williams car straight line speed is up there with some of the better ones, but they struggle in everything else. So Albon, decent driver. Can he outperform that Williams? Can he drive really well to try to prove a point to James Vowles and say, hey, I'm still here, man. I'm still the guy. So I'd like to see what he does in that Williams. So I guess you could say Williams is a team I'm looking at. So that's what I got there. And then
I just wanted to say about Alpine too. That's another team that we guys should be watching. Because we don't know the future of this team now. At this point, they're basically selling. It seems like they're selling the team off for scraps. They're not going to have their own engines anymore. Moving forward, they just seem like they're the team that's in line to make that decision. Maybe to Andretti, maybe to another team, somebody like that, to say, hey, here you go, take it over. We don't want to be in this thing anymore because they're doing basically what they did to Red Bull back in, 2016, where they said, hey, we're just in it for the publicity now. They're not in it for the actual racing or even care about trying to, be competitive. And it sucks because, that is a legacy brand. That is one of the 3 teams that have their own, engine in their own car. They're not a customer team. They built their own engine. So, I want to see what they do in the second half as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's do predictions before we sign off here. Let's start off with you, Evan. We'll go around the clock with Evan. Going back at you.
I'm gonna go Max 1, and I think it's just like I said because he's just so dominant there. He's always been pretty dominant at Zandvoort. It's
Sure.
His home race. It's where he wants to be at his best. So, and especially coming at or going there after the break, he's kind of maybe refocused himself, maybe reset himself, got himself in a different headspace, which isn't great for the rest of the grid, but it might be good for him. And then for second and third, I'm going to go Lando and Lewis. I think they're the two drivers, who have kind of been on a tear the entire, especially the latter half of the first part of the season. So I want to see how they end up, coming out of this summer break again, revitalized, rested, relaxed, and going into this strong. So I'm going to go that Max, Lando and Lewis 1, 2, and 3, and then my surprise. I'm gonna go with Leclerc not being in the top 10. I think that he's gonna be trying to push that car, like you were saying earlier about how we want to see how he shows, but I think that car there's something fundamentally wrong with it that they just can't figure it out yet, and obviously they weren't able to work on it allegedly throughout the
Right.
The time that they were on break. And I don't know that they've actually had time to figure it out. He has been outperforming that car. He has been pushing it to its limit, but this is not the kind of track you can push that car to the limit. Spa is the type of track that you can do that because it's very forgiving. This isn't a forgiving track. This is.
What about Tap coming through in the chat, huh?
Yeah, Tap dropped in here.
Yeah. All right. Where'd you come from, man? What are you doing? You escorting planes that you can get on really quick with us?
Nice.
Max, Lewis, Lando, and then Checo DNF. That man, well, Tap's the old friend of the show. We'll let that slide. That is borderline for a surprise.
That's weak sauce. Oh man, bitch, what do you got?
Checo's begging to DNF, so he has an excuse to not score points.
Oh man, what do you got, bitch?
All right, I'm gonna shake it up here. Hamilton first, Lando second, Oscar third, Max DNF.
Oh,
he's gonna be too amped up. He's gonna lose it in the orange smoke when he can't see the track in front of him. They don't police that like a bunch of idiots, and like all the drivers like I can't see. This is safe. Boom, 200 miles an hour through orange smoke. What could go wrong?
Landon's gonna say, "I told you that was for me. I told you that was
for sure."
Oh man, all right, I like that. I'm gonna go. Max, Lewis, and Leclerc. I think Leclerc has a solid outing. He's one lap Bobby over there, but I think he turns it into a podium. So I think I think what happens is not necessarily Lando and Piastri are not. I think they're 4 and 5 if you ask me. But I think that somehow Leclerc finds a way to some sort of. I think their strategy beats McLaren's this time around. McLaren screwed up on some strategies, right?
No.
So hey, it could happen.
They really have.
And then since you didn't say it, I'm gonna say it. My surprise is gonna be Sauber in the top 10. At 10. How about at number 10?
Just a point. You know what?
Just
you can have the
one point.
entire top 10. If they win the race, you still get it.
Thanks.
Which is obviously, in play. So
Right. Yeah.
All we need is like that U.S. Grand Prix where like most of the field can't start, and then they're right in there.
And they're right there.
Yeah.
Who knows? The Zandvoort banking, tire defects, something. I don't know.
Anything's possible, man.
Oh, they're all on
That's what
Pirelli,
happens
so
in
that won't. Yeah.
Oh man, you can check us out every Tuesday night at 9 here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Check us out. Find us on Twitter at F1_5 Reasons. And also, Carly, yes, that's damn right. It's Ferrari forever. Although they're going to be free this time around. All right. Yeah, check us out every Tuesday, 9 o'clock here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and we'll be going over the Dutch Grand Prix and looking ahead next week. But
yeah, there's Monza the week after that. So
Yeah.
So Should be fun. Should be fun.
Excited for that.
Almost done with the European schedule.
Yeah.
It's Monza and then Azerbaijan, which is borderline, and that's that is it.
That's it.
Then back to Asia,
And we'll
back
close
over
it out.
here a couple of times. South
Sure.
America, Middle East,
And that's it.
everywhere but Europe, basically.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching the show. We'll be back next week, and make sure you follow us on Twitter, but also check out our other shows. We got Monday nights is Six Rings Canes, all things Miami Hurricanes football. We've got,
preview next week, so
yes, UF preview. We are previewing the big game, and then we've got
Nice.
Buckets, which is Miami basketball on Wednesday.
yeah, we got
Tuesdays.
Wednesdays or Thursdays. This week, Wednesday, we got assistant coach Cody Kimball on.
There you go.
And then, well, I don't know if I can announce this yet, but I'll go ahead and do it. Following week on Thursday, we got Danielle Page, who's an assistant coach for the women's team. So
Nice.
those are our next two shows.
There you go. We will see you guys next week. Adios.